The Battle of Coire Buidhe.
A stranger arrived in Glenachart. She was homeless, hungry and sore. Having come all the way from Lochaber, she knew she could travel no more. So she knocked at the big house in Shewglie, where she was invited inside by the wife of James Grant, Hannah Fraser. The stranger tried hard not to cry. That night she gave birth to a baby, a boy with dark hair, Gilly Doo, but she knew there was no way to keep him. She didn't know what she should do. So Hannah then made a suggestion. I think it is best if he stay. With my husband and I, we would keep him, so agreed. She was gone the next day. Gilly Doo and Mart tended cattle. His name means black lad of the cows, but each year that passed was a torment. He needed to get away now. For the teasing was always relentless from local lads day after day, until he became so unhappy he knew he could no longer stay. He decided to go to Lochaber and was welcomed by Lochaber men who saw a chance to gain information of the cattle that grazed in the glen. They worked out a grand plan to plunder and rustle the cows down that way. At Inchbrine they found a large number while the men were away for the day. They retraced their steps through Glencoilty, driving large numbers of cattle. When the men from Inchbrine discovered the theft, they were ready to go into battle. So they went to the big house in Shewglie. Once again, Hannah opened the door. We need to speak to your husband. It can't wait one moment more. They all went inside and spoke to James Grant and asked him to lead the attack on the men from Lochaber while still on the road, then bring all the cattle straight back. James was reluctant. They needed more men. Hannah did not agree with her spouse. She taunted him in front of the men from Inchbrine. Did I marry a man or a mouse? So they set off in pursuit of the raiders, their intention to get the cows back, for no one must say that these men were not brave or state that it's courage they lack. Eventually they managed to find them, just south of the Coire Buidhe burn. James Grant was shocked to see Gilly Doo and surprised when he was to learn that no cattle were taken from Shewglie, so a truce was agreed by each side. Both sets of men turned to head off for home, all cattle intact, no dent to their pride. They had only progressed a few paces when a hare shot out from nowhere. Kenneth MacDonald fired his gun, but the bullet had no effect on the hare. But the men from Lochaber were angry. They thought that the shot was for them. So began a fierce battle, killing 8 of the brave Achart men. James Grant of Shewglie was one of the dead. The others were forced to turn back, but the Lochaber men were hot on their heels, determined to get their own back. They arrived once again in Shewglie and stole every beast that was hooved. Hannah wept and pleaded for mercy, but Gilly Doo was not willing to move. I helped you, I fed you, I homed you, she begged him and tried to cajole. His response was bitter and heartless. If you were with child, bear a fool. So the folk of Glenachart took all of their dead, raised cairns where the bodies had died, and soon Hannah Fraser gave birth to a son who many years later grew angry inside. With much careful thought he plotted revenge. To Lochaber he rode, the seed planted, found Gilly Doo's house and asked for a bed, which in Highland tradition was granted. The two men talked long in the night, and the raid of Inchbrine was described. So who are you exactly? Asked Gilly Doo. I am the foal, he replied. With that, the young man sprang to his feet. My moment of vengeance at last. He plunged a dirk into Gilly-Doo's heart, then everything happened so fast. He ran, leaving Gilly-Doo dead on the floor, jumped up in the saddle and fled, straight back to Glenurquhart as fast as he could. At last, he could honour the dead.